Time now for another episode of Ask Mike, and we sure do have a whole lot of things to get to. Mike, 1 week ago, I actually felt like there was some optimism. People liked what they saw. It was just a tough way to lose that game. This week, I don't feel like that is the case. It felt like a crushing loss to the Memphis Tigers.
It's just something, honestly, that I almost can't explain. I know they've got better players than what we're seeing.
They got better players in Memphis, that's for sure.
And yet they're doing this. And ultimately, what other answer do you can you come up with other than it's the head coach and it's his responsibility? They're not getting out of these players what they're capable of. I realize there's an issue on defense. Mm-hmm. They don't have enough depth, and they spend a lot of their NIL money on the offensive side. But come on, Memphis has no NIL money, and you went over there and they pushed you around. So I didn't expect that.
It's Sutton Smith, man. Why can't we get players like that? Running back averaging 12 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Sure, we're going to be taking a deep dive into it. So here we go. Question number one. Our first question coming from Hill Country Hog, who asked, can you explain to me why Arkansas's football team is getting worse instead of better? There's a lot of new starters, so maybe it should take some time for them to get settled. What's happening instead makes no sense to me. Mike, a lot of us are puzzled. And if I'm being honest, in the postgame room after that game, you can sense the resignation and the frustration from the head coach and the players. And how can't you after you lose two games like that?
Yeah, I'm going to at least try to explain this a little bit. I think, first of all, you got to give Memphis coaches a lot of credit for scouting Arkansas. It was a lot like the Arkansas State game, the biggest game of the year for them. If they can win this game, look what that does for us. Yeah. But they had more video to go on than Arkansas State coaches did. They had seen what had happened against Memphis. They had seen what Memphis specifically had done in the second half. Ole Miss had done in the second half to hold Arkansas to just 7 points offensively. I think that was huge. The thing that really surprised me was when I watched the Memphis-Troy game, Memphis ran for just slightly over 200 yards against them. And I thought, well, I think Arkansas can handle that. They've got better defensive players in Memphis than Troy. And I just am shocked that they gave them almost 300 yards to those guys. That's the part that really surprised me. Sam Pittman hinted at this. It sounds like an excuse, but maybe there's something to it. August was unseasonably cool here.
It was.
Remember how we talked about how that first game of the year is usually a scorcher in Fayetteville, and it was in the 80s, and then the Little Rock game was supposed to be awful, and it was in the 80s.
Even the Ole Miss game, it was really hot in Oxford, but it didn't start till 6 o'clock.
Didn't start till 6:30. So what you really had in Memphis was the first time they'd played. 11 o'clock is where you start approaching the heat of the day. So you start off at 11, it gets hotter and hotter all the way down to about 2:30. And that could explain why these guys sort of look like they just completely ran out of gas, specifically that D-line, which the worst thing about that game was when Memphis had the ball on about the 7 or 8 yard line, somewhere in there, and if they don't get a first down, Arkansas is going to get the ball back with maybe a minute left to try
and the backup quarterback was in the game.
The backup quarterback came in the game, and they couldn't stop him.
And they stopped him at the point of attack.
They did.
It seemed like an effort thing. They just got pushed back.
It just looked like they were just had no energy, got pushed. Some people would say lack of effort, but if you're completely out of gas, maybe what they were thinking is it doesn't matter right now. We're beat anyway. If they were thinking that, they were wrong, because you still have a chance if you get the ball back with a minute left. Maybe you drive back down and kick a field goal and win the game. So that was the bad part. And it's just, you keep coming back to the same thing. Even if they did run out of gas, then you got to play more players. If you sense that's going on,
maybe they don't have the depth.
Yeah, but you got to let Cam Ball rest, even if it's a bad situation. Finally, I'm going to say this. It doesn't matter because it's over and done with. But there was a terrible mistake made when they scheduled this game and the Notre Dame game, because the Notre Dame game was scheduled at a time when you didn't have to play a Power 4 team as a part of what you did in the SEC. I used to say this all the time, and people would kind of look at me like, what's wrong with you? If I'm an AD And I've got a football team in the SEC. As tough as it is, my 4 non-conference games are going to be played at home, and they're going to be teams that we can beat.
Is that good for college football?
It may not be good.
Is that good for your fan base? Is that what they want to see?
Well, it may not be, but does your fan base want you to go to Memphis and lose? Do they want you to play Notre Dame at home and get beat? If you're not up to that level, you still, considering your SEC schedule, let's say they didn't do that. Let's say they played 2 home games instead of really they could have lost. It worked out well, but they could have lost that Arkansas State game.
Won the game by 40 points. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
They could have under the wrong circumstances. The point is, it would still make, if they don't do something from here on out, who are they going to beat? So maybe you get 4 wins. So is there a difference between 4 wins and 2? Yeah. 2 is like horrible. 2 is like so bad you don't even think about it. But kind of looking at that now.
And there's a really good chance that this is the worst team they play the rest of the way on the schedule. All right, so something you said there with scheduling. And now riddle me this, though. Here's my big takeaway from this. Why should fans be okay with that? That we're going to play 3 or 4 crap non-conference teams, whatever, 8-game schedule 4, 9-game schedule, it's going to be 3, whatever it is. And why should they accept the way things are? That we're just going to hire another coach and we're not going to find the money. And that's okay. And we're just here to get by and we're going along to get along and you guys got to take it and you got to like it. Speaking to the fans, why should they accept that? Because quite frankly, Mike, that seems to be the attitude. And I don't know if that's a head football coach thing. I don't know if that's an AD thing. I don't know if it's a president thing. I don't know if it's a booster thing. But the attitude in football seems to be, let's just do enough to get by.
Yeah, I'm not saying they should accept it, but unless something is done at the top to change that, and I'm telling you, when you go beyond where we are right now, because everybody wants a new coach in there, you run a very serious risk right now of ending up with the same situation you had when Pittman was hired. We're going to talk about that as the show goes on, but it's not a matter of should they accept it or not. It's a matter of what can they do about it, because nothing has been done at the top ever since Broyles left. I'm telling you, nothing has been done. I will say you had that one brief period with Petrino.
10 and 11.
And then it's gone downhill since then.
But so Petrino thought outside the box. They got a big-time coach. Even Bielema, it didn't work out, but they tried.
That was
a coveted coach that a lot of people would have wanted.
But now we're not at a point where that happens. And it's going to take a new AD. I'm absolutely sure of that, to change that.
Well, okay, so you bring up that point then here. Spontaneously, I'm thinking about this. If it's a new AD, don't they have to get the wheels in motion on that? Like so your check's gone. You want an AD in place in the middle of October to be leading a football search at the end of November.
Absolutely, because look, here's the problem. You get into a situation where if you wait till the end of the year and you start trying to hire a coach, you don't have much time.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's too late.
You've got recruiting to save. Anytime a new coach comes in, he's got to have time to bring his players in. And if you wait that late, so that's why when, for instance, Bielema came in here, as soon as the season was over, it was before the bowl game, boom, you're here. You're on the ground. You can do what you need to do. That's the way it should be done.
All right, one more point there, kind of jumping around here. I wrote something down. The effort, that last play, the backup quarterback, it's 3rd and 8. All you got to do is stop them and you get the ball back.
Well,
who do you put that on? Because it's easy to say, well, the head coach has got to be better, or even the defensive coordinator, and maybe it is. Maybe the message not getting across. Is it the players? Is it the state of college football? What is it? Why is the effort not there on a play like that?
Again, some of it could have been fatigue, but that doesn't explain the number of guys that were around him. Somebody should have taken him down. I think they just had given up by that time. Now, what causes you to give up? That's coaching. You coach players not to give up. Here's what I remember. I remember Xavier Sori at SEC Media Days. Remember this? When he said, we take it personally when they make bad statements about our coach. No, you apparently don't, because you don't do enough to have him keep his job. You can pop off all you want in a forum like that, but you better be able to back it up.
And I know it's always, would have, could have, should have, but you're so close to 4-0. Even if they lose to Ole Miss, just win. Find a way to get out of there with a win. You're coming into this Notre Dame game with a completely different attitude.
That's the craziness of this. If they had not had those 2 fumbles, we'd be looking at a team that's 4-0, and people would not be complaining right now. They still might have some issues, but people wouldn't be complaining.
Sam Pittman now 7-19 in one-score games. All right, lot to digest there. Still plenty to get to here on Ask Mike. Mike Irwin going to be breaking it down all show long. We've got to take a quick time out. Back here on Ask Mike and still trying to digest a really difficult weekend. The Hogs falling to 2-2 as they drop a game on the road to the Memphis Tigers, 32-31. Next question here coming from Jimmy Hogball, who says, I've had enough. No excuse for this poor performance. I vote we should hire the Memphis coach. What do you think? Ryan Silverfield is the guy there.
Okay, he's making 2.2. It goes only up to 2.7 if he's there to the end of his contract, which I think is 3 or 4 more years. So you could probably afford him. But here's the thing. What would he do if you offered him? Would he take the job? Somebody mentioned to me, go after South Florida's coach. I mean, he's having a great year.
Yeah.
Okay, would he take the job? It's easy to say, go get this guy. But I go back to what happened when this job was open before after Chad Morris was fired. And the one guy that showed an interest in it early on was Lane Kiffin, and he was only after more money. He was trying to use Arkansas against Ole Miss to get more money at Ole Miss. So you didn't really have him. And then after that, he tried to talk to Iowa State's head coach. He wouldn't interview. He tried to talk
Deion Sanders before Jackson State.
Deion Sanders. So you're looking at some of this stuff and going, I had a guy tell me, he said, I'm not buying that. You can look all over the country and find a coach out there because we have a reputation. Okay, do you have that kind of time? Do you have 6 weeks to look for a coach? No, you don't. He had a handful of guys he was going to look at. He got rejected couldn't get one of them, got rejected by the other 2, and finally got down to Pittman and Barry Lunny Jr., and he ended up with Pittman. I'm telling you that unless they have, we talked about this before, unless you have a long-term plan to go after a coach, you're going to end up in the same boat this time. Unless a miracle happens, maybe you got somebody out there like a John Tyson for football that could jump up and say, here's $10 million. Go get Nick Saban or something.
Cody Campbell, is that the guy at Texas Tech spending all this? Yeah. Look at them. Near the top 10 in the country right now.
Absolutely. So if you've got somebody that maybe can come up with big giant bucks, you might go out and get somebody, but I don't hear anything about that.
Yeah, it's a tough loss to take. And look, the chapter has not fully been written yet. Sam Pittman still has plenty of weeks to go here. I want to know this, though. The fact that you're saying that Memphis might be a better job than Arkansas right now, that the coach would be hesitant to take that, how alarming should that be to administration?
I'm not saying it's a better job, but I'm saying
just if he would process that
I'm thinking,
maybe I got it better here.
I'm thinking what he may think is I'll get a better job if I hold out.
One more 10-win season.
Whatever. I don't have to accept Arkansas. I can go better than that.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, the thing that makes this job hard to take if you're a coach is because you're looking at the league that Arkansas is in. And you're going, wait a minute, how am I going to rebuild in the SEC playing that schedule? It's almost a death sentence to come into this league if your program is not already at a high level.
Does Arkansas really? So, look, the missed tackles, losing a game to Memphis, blowing an 18-point lead, that's not about the NIL. That's not about the head coach. I guess the message could be from the coaching, but that's a bigger picture. That's something that went wrong on the field. But different point, if we're moving in a direction people think this is going to move. Do they really have the money to make the change? Because what I mean by that is this is going to be expensive. Even if Pittman's buyout's $5 or $6 million, you're talking about wiping out a whole staff. So to really do it right, you're talking a $10 million head coach, a $20 million plus roster, upgrades in travel, further upgrades of facilities, which are already great, but still you're constantly doing work. Can they really find the money to do all that? And that's not even including if they move on from Juracek.
I mean, they don't have it right now.
They don't have the money to cover the $20 million that they're required to spend in revenue share.
That's right. They don't have it right now. Well, could they get it? Not, in my opinion, not without somebody that's better at raising money. I said this before. Juracek comes on and says we don't have the money. Nobody asked him, that's your job. Why don't we have the money?
All right, moving on to our next question here from WV Hog fan who says, we are cursed with late fumbles, poor officiating, poor tackling, and poor coaching. I like Pittman, but it is time for him to enjoy life on the lake. What do you think? Hey, There is no question Sam Pittman is a great guy. He is so authentic. This is not about that. But sometimes, unfortunately, really good people, it can get away from them. Chad Morris, sure was a great guy, just wasn't a great football coach at Arkansas.
It doesn't matter if it's time or not. It will happen unless, I was told before the season started, and we talk about a plan. The plan was a pretty good one. If he wins at least 6 games, but maybe 7, we're going to keep him for another year. And what we're going to do,
Which would be the walk year of his contract.
which would be the last year of his contract. So then you don't have to pay the $8 million. You don't buy him out. He just retires. And then you hire an athletic director and you let that guy spend a whole year raising money and trying to find the right coach. That's a good plan.
That is a good plan.
This plan's blown up because now you can't do that. And so again, I don't know, I keep being told over and over again that Hunter Yurichek's not going to hire the next head coach. Well, okay, you better hire an AD pretty soon and have him start raising money pretty fast because I don't see the money there right now to go after some sort of big upgrade in a head coach.
Why Yurichek getting all the blame here? And I say that from this tone. The athletic department is extremely strong. He's elevated a softball program. He's elevated a soccer program. The baseball program is the winningest program in the sport in the last 15 years. I'm sure there's somebody out with basketball. They hired John Calipari. They're doing some incredible things. Why is football so important to Yurichek's job?
Well, it's the biggest sport on campus. It's the one that makes all the money. It's the one that draws the most fans to games. And what I'm told is the issue there, we get back to the Arkansas way of doing things, the way it was with Frank Broyles that so many people didn't like about Jeff Long, which was Frank Broyles had this attitude, the fans are the customers. He told me one time, he said, I'm just like Walmart. I'm running a Walmart here. And he said, Sam Walton didn't get Walmart where it is by ignoring their customers. And he said, my attitude is the fans come first. Frank had a listed phone number in the phone book. I had too many people tell me they called him and he would answer and talk to them. I used to roam that Broyles Center every day, watch people go in and just fans come in and talk to him when he was available.
That's unreal.
You can't go in there now without an appointment.
Times have changed, yes.
Times may have changed, but what I'm being told is Arkansas needs an AD that can at least hang out with the boosters, be friendly with them. We like you.
Relatable.
You're relatable, absolutely. You're my friend. I listen to you. I've had conversations with you. I believe you listen to me. And right now, what I'm being told is Yurichek is a great guy for the coaches. He's always around at practices and games. He goes around and supports his coaches. That's good.
He was at Memphis this weekend?
But he doesn't spend much time around boosters and season ticket holders.
I'm just going through notes here, and I see a point. The idea, a lot of fans like this idea. Hear a lot on the radio, see a lot online. Bobby Petrino angling to be the head coach. Any thought on that possibly being the direction this could take by the end?
Well, Brandon Marcello, who covered Arkansas as a newspaper reporter, that was back during the Jeff Long days.
Now a very national voice with CBS Sports. Yeah,
we don't have newspapers so much anymore. But he had a good reputation. He's always had good sources. He's got a podcast, and he doesn't have a reputation about being wrong about this stuff. And he said on his podcast yesterday that he's hearing from his sources that Petrino is lobbying behind the scenes to get that job. And what he says makes sense because if a change like that is made, it's made during an open date week because you get an extra week to get everything sort of jump started. And so there's an open date week after Notre Dame. You got 2 weeks to prepare for Tennessee. Nothing was announced today. Nothing. Pittman didn't say he was making any changes. I was told by somebody that I think knows that right now, if Pittman made a change, it wouldn't be to Travis Williams. It would be the D-line coach, Dick Adams. So, but that's just what somebody says that in a position to know. It might not be correct. And it might be that Pittman knows, already knows he's going to be gone if they don't beat Notre Dame, and he's not going to make any changes until then. I don't know.
Yeah, I do think Bobby Petrino has gotten a lot out of Taylor Green, but if I'm just being very honest here, it got away from him badly at Louisville.
It did.
It really wasn't very good at Texas A&M. Even his time as the head coach at Missouri State, a program where you really have to coach, that didn't end all that well. Let's just look at it from this standpoint. Given what happened here in 2012, can Bobby really be the head coach?
Yeah, I think I'm being told he could be. The issue is he would have to win a bunch of games. to convince them to hire him.
So the
full-time.
way that he was fired, that will not stand in the way of him leading the football program even on a temporary basis.
I think the situation is so desperate right now that if he somehow would give them reason as an interim coach to believe he could turn this thing around, that's what they would do. Because for one thing, it saves them a lot of money. You wouldn't have to go out and pay him a lot of money to get him initially.
That's not the answer, though. Doing something on the cheap isn't. If he's the right guy,
well,
that's
I'm just
one
telling you, it's not a matter of doing it on the cheap. You don't have the money. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
They got to find the money. You keep on saying that.
That's right.
That's on the AD to find the right boosters.
But then you've got to put an
AD
in place and have him raise the money.
Ole Miss has found the money. Vanderbilt right now is 4-0. Missouri perennially winning 8 or 9 games a year. I don't want to hear that Arkansas can't do it. All right, next question here coming from Hog Dogger, who says, I don't wish anything but the best for Hunter Yurachek, but he seems to have a lack of confidence in our football program. If he would come out and make a statement that he was misunderstood, I would feel a little bit better. Perhaps this is alluding to his comments. Little Rock Touchdown Club got a whole lot of press last week, Mike. Seemed like we were talking about it every single day.
Yeah, but he also has more here. But if it comes down to that he leaves the AD post, I would hope we would get an Arkansas guy like Houston Nutt, and that's what I've been talking about. That's what you hear. Now, why would they want Houston Nutt? Because Houston Nutt, at one time, Jim Lindsey and some other boosters had this plan because they were dealing with Frank Broyles getting older and knew he couldn't coach forever, be the AD forever. And the idea was, we've got to find another Frank as an AD. And they came up with Houston Nutt. The problem was he was the head coach at the time, and they had a plan to bring Gus in, have Gus be successful, kick Houston Nutt upstairs to be AD, and let Gus take over. The whole thing blew up. Number one, Houston had no intention of not being the head coach. He wasn't going to give the job up. And Frank had no intention of stepping down as AD. But I bring that point up only because Jim Lindsey, a man that I know very well and respected a lot, thought enough of Houston Nutt's ability to be the AD that he wanted him to be the AD. Why did he think that? Because as he said, he could sell popsicles to Eskimos. He can raise money. And I brought this up talking to a booster the other day, this very subject. And this is what he said to me. He said, there's no question he could solve this money problem. He'd get out there, he'd get mixing with the fans, he'd get them fired up. The boosters would like him. They would start giving money. But he said, I don't know if he could handle the hiring of the coaches part. He said, look at his assistant coaches that he hired when he was a head coach. Is one of them a really successful head coach right now? You almost have to have a reputation of hiring great coaches to be an AD, and that's the part I'm not sure if he can handle.
So is there almost a spot where, like, it's become such a business where if you don't have a master's, you're not a business guy, you're no longer an AD. There's a couple exceptions, but that's just
right.
Where it used to always be, you used to be the head basketball coach, the head football coach, the head hockey coach, whatever. So is there maybe a role where Houston Nutt could be like the ambassador for football?
Sure.
It's Yurachek, and then, Nutt's kind of sort of in charge of football?
They're crazy if they don't do that some way, shape, or form. I've been saying ever since Houston came back, and he's got a house here now out on Beaver Lake. He goes back and forth, but I think he's here right now, and I've told people, if you don't involve him in your program in some way, you are being stupid, because this guy can relate to fans. He can go out there and he can help. I'll tell you what I would do if I were the AD. I'd say, hey, they let our booster clubs go. They have these Razorback clubs all over the state. They've let them go completely dormant. Mm-hmm. I'd say revive those things. You go, we'll set you up in all these little towns all over Arkansas, and you just go around and tour. And you have a big lunch and meeting, and we'll pay for it, and you have people come in there.
Meet the coach, meet a player, whatever.
And then you tell them, help me organize a Razorback club in this town, and I'll be back, and I'll bring coaches with me in the off season. That's the biggest mistake they've made lately, is they've lost all of those Razorback clubs all over the state.
All right, Mike, I wish we had some better things to talk about, but maybe better days are ahead, and I'm not counting them out this week against Notre Dame. Still plenty to get to here on Ask Mike. We got to take a quick time out. Back here with Ask Mike and Mike Irwin in a very Mike Irwin mood on this Monday as we're talking about a lot of things, raising money, maybe a new AD, maybe even a new head coach following that tough tough loss to Memphis. Bittersweet, be sweet, I should say, 3747 saying bittersweet. That's a bittersweet start to the season, right? Enough. Get rid of Sam now. Let Petrino see if he can earn the job between now and year end. Tired of excuses. It is time for Sam to be fired. He said, we have a good team. We lost to Memphis. Mike, we were talking about this briefly before we got on here. What is Memphis in the SEC? 14? 15? Where are you putting them in that conference?
They're at the bottom, close to the bottom.
Definitely that bottom 4 tier for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And I don't know that if they were in this league, they would beat Arkansas. I just think it was a trap game.
Yeah, I don't know if they would beat Arkansas 4 out of 5 times. Even in their building, I don't.
It was a trap game, and whoever, I think it was Yurchek that set it up. Whoever it was, they should have seen that coming a mile away.
2 for 1 is why they did it. Yeah. So Memphis comes here twice. You don't have to pay for it. Yeah. So you get out of that bye game. You have to go there one time. It's a short commute.
I wouldn't have done it. As far as Petrino, again, here's what I would say about that. And I mean, it looks like it could happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's some evidence that it could happen. Here's the problem. Are you going to tell me that you bring him down out of that booth and put him on the sidelines and tell him he's got to be the head coach now? And that's his offense isn't going to be unaffected by that? He's going to have to share time. Right now he's spending all of his time concentrating on the offense. Now all of a sudden he's got to worry about the whole team. I think it would affect the offense. You want that? And ask me how I think he's going to affect how is he going to improve the defense? When he was the head coach here, you know what he used to say about defense? I don't want to mess with that. I'll just outscore him. He didn't have a reputation of having strong defenses when he was here.
I think about 30th or so was the best defense
I mean, he would get somebody that was okay, but I don't know that he could solve this problem. Maybe he could, but that's what he'd have to do. So, and then there's the whole history of replacing coaches in season. It just, look around and tell me where somebody replaced somebody in season and turned everything around.
Especially in September.
It just doesn't usually work. You know, the best example is Frank firing Jack Crow one game into the season, giving the job to Joe Kynes, and they won 3 games that year. 3? Okay. Do you think that Jack Crow could have won 3 games? I do. So what did it accomplish? He did it because, like I told you before, Frank couldn't stand crickets. He figures the fans are out there wanting us to do something. Yep. And I heard this one day myself, and I can't remember what was going on, but I heard his voice rattling through the Broyle Center, and it was this. He said, "We got to fire somebody." And that, to me, typifies his attitude when things went wrong. And that was with any sport. You didn't necessarily have to fire the head coach, but he would go to the head coach and say, "You better fire somebody. You got to send a message that this is not acceptable."
All right, next question here coming from Razor Alex 88, who asks, can we just cancel the remainder of the football season? Very, very high percentage. We will end up 2-10. I don't think we can even beat Mississippi State.
Well,
Mike, it's not easy to find wins on that schedule.
No, really, I mean, and here's the thing: you have to improve that defense, and you have to figure out what went wrong with the offense. 2 weeks in a row now, your offense has sputtered in the second half.
In the red zone with a chance to win the game.
That's right. So you've got to figure out how do we jumpstart? How do we keep Taylor Green protected? Because we know now that when you don't give him enough time to go through his progressions, he will just go to the guy he wants to go to, even if he's not covered. That's what he was doing, even if he is covered, and that's what he was doing last year. So you got to solve that problem. That's an O-line problem. You got to get that solved. And then you have to figure out a way to get this defense better. If you don't, yes, I don't see a team you can beat.
It's not something that Arkansas 2-10. Again, I thought we escaped that with the Chad Morris era there. Next question here, DJ Shannon, not shaven Smea wants to know, how would you handle the current FB situation if you were AD?
First of all,
football situation if you were the athletic director, for the abbreviation inclined there.
First of all, if I were the AD here and the money problems that exist right now, I wouldn't be the AD because I would have resigned. I would have said, I can't raise the money, I'm gone. I can't get it done. So let's say I am the AD here, and that means I was able to raise the money. So what do I do if I don't have the money problem? Here's exactly what I do if I know I need to make a coaching change. I go out right now before the season starts, and I start looking all over the country for the next head coach. And what you do is you target 6 or 7 guys. You talk to their agents. When you talk to agents, you're talking behind the scenes. You can do that. So I talk to their agents, get a feel for what it's going to cost, and then what I do is I go find people that know them. I ask around, I make phone calls. I find people that personally know these coaches, and I want to learn stuff about them. How do they handle this situation? What's their family like? I want to know the person I hire. And so that when I make a hire, I'm not, the one thing that Jeff Long did wrong with Bielema is he didn't check out the situation up there, because those Wisconsin fans basically were saying, look, Barry Alvarez is the guy that basically he was relying on him. That was his coach, head coach. So he's sitting there as the head coach, but he can run into his office every time he's got a problem. All of a sudden he comes down here, he doesn't have Barry Alvarez. So you have to check on things like that. You have to talk to people. And that's what I do. I'd spend not 3 or 4 weeks looking for a head coach. I'd spend months looking for a head coach.
We keep on talking about the money, and it's always going to come up. It's going to come up if there is any kind of athletic director change, coaching change, what have you. Why isn't there more of an attitude that we got to spend money to make money? And it's easy to just sit there and say, Peyton Hill has said, that's an excuse. We don't have the money. And people are like, oh, man, tough sled, they don't have the money.
Again, you can't spend what you don't have. So you've got to raise it. You got to raise the money.
Private equity? What do we got to do here? Arkansas tax? What is it?
You're going to go out and borrow the money? I don't know. I think you've got to change the attitude of the boosters and the at least season ticket holder types. Because look what you got at Ole Miss. You got all those people that gave $5. Now there are people criticizing your check. He wanted the base level booster to, the season ticket holder, or just some average fan out there that watches on TV. He wanted him to give $50. Well, at Ole Miss, you can give any amount you want. If you can write them a $10 check, they'll take your money. And they raised a whole lot of money at Ole Miss from just average Joe Blow fans.
I think was it your check that said at Little Rock Touchdown Club, the idea would be 10,000 fans, $100 a month?
Something like that, or 50 or something like that.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, he aimed too high.
All right, next question here coming from PHAT, who says, looking at that schedule, Arkansas football could lose their remaining 8 games. What do you think the realistic final win-loss record will be? Preseason, Mike, it was set at 5.5.
Yeah, and I thought 7. I thought they'd win 7. Right now, again, without the defense getting better and without Bobby Petrino solving whatever problems popped up the last 2 weeks in the second half, yeah, it's 2 wins.
We got Mississippi State, Auburn, Texas A&M, probably the 3 worst teams they play. Was Memphis the worst team they'll see the rest of the schedule?
I think so. Maybe the circumstances are different because you're there and they're pumped up and all that. But I think any of those teams could beat Memphis.
Is there any worry that the way business is done in college football now, players looking out for themselves, looking out for the draft, all that kind of stuff, they're going to make business decisions? In fairness, maybe Pittman knew that, because you look at this roster, lots and lots of 4th and 5th-year seniors.
Well, there's no way to get away from that. It's becoming more and more of a problem every year. Are there still players out there that don't play this game on the college level for money? Yeah, Memphis has some. They're still out there. But at this level, when you're coaching a team at this level, it's getting more and more rare. Again, I'll tell the quick story of my buddy in Lubbock that I've known since the 4th grade, and he's been a Texas Tech fan, and he just suffered and suffered and suffered years and years and years. They finally ended up number 2 in the nation 8-10 years ago, beat Texas, and all they had to do was beat OU. They were number 2 in the country. And
smashed.
And they got wrecked. And that's the highest they've ever been ranked, is number 2 in the country. And he's just suffered through that. And I'm calling him now and saying, look, you have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs. This is one of the best teams I've watched. They have no weaknesses. You got a billionaire out there that spent $40 million constructing this team. They may be better than Texas. They spent more money than Texas. And he said, I'm done with it. I don't care. He said, I like the idea that we had kids at Texas Tech that came here because they wanted to be here. These guys are just here for money. They're not going to stick around when it's over. I don't care anymore. I'm going to do other stuff. And he claims he's never watched a game.
So along those lines, I've been thinking of something here, and I want to bring this up just because it's a thought of mine. Do you agree in any way that they may never recover from the Chad Morris era? They turned away so many people, and the program went down so far that you got 15, 20,000 people at those games that it's so hard to get them back.
I always believe that sooner or later things change. It's a question of how long. It might not be in my lifetime.
I mean, SMU came back, right?
Yeah, I think you can come back. I don't know when it would happen, but there's no question that whole mess, the Bielema, the way he went downhill, and then Chad Morris and how he got hired. And I can tell you how they ended up with him. They thought they had Gus Malzahn. They fired their AD because Gus Malzahn's agent said, if you want Gus, you got to fire.
He won't work with Jeff Long.
Yeah, he won't work with Jeff Long, so they fired Jeff Long, and then you ended up without a real AD, and then all of a sudden when Gus decided to stay where he was, they had no plan for who they were going to hire next, so Jerry Jones just stepped in and said, hey, this guy at SMU is pretty good. He happens to coach one of my kids or one of my grandsons, and then that's what you get. Jerry Jones, I'll just tell you, the guy was a great player here. He was part of a national championship team. He's a PR guy. He's a good businessman. He does not know squat about football. You can tell that from what's happening to the Cowboys. And because of him, you ended up with Chad Morris here. So no thanks, Jerry. Don't recommend any more coaches here.
I don't want to write off Sam Pittman just yet. Like I said, I love the guy. He's great with the media. He genuinely seems like a good guy. But man, Sam, we got to turn a corner here. All right. More with Mike Irwin on Ask Mike after a quick timeout. Back here with Mike Irwin on Ask Mike and diving right back into it here. K. Haas wants to know, isn't it better to just pull the plug on Sam and T. Will, let Bobby interim the rest of the year while we find a new coach, or does the new AD need to make the hire after Hunter bails or is fired? I don't think he's bailing. He got a guaranteed contract, and quite frankly, you can't let go of the head coach and a defensive coordinator. There's going to be nobody left.
Yeah, I don't think both of those things would happen. And again, I keep being told your check's not going to hire the next permanent head coach. Now, he might approve of the replacing of the person who's telling me about Bobby Petrino perhaps getting this job. Talks about a big local booster that got him here in the first place and is paying.
The first time or the second?
Second time. And is putting quite a bit of money into Taylor Green. So Bobby Petrino's got a big booster behind him. Okay, how much power does that guy have? Maybe a lot, I don't know. He might have to come up with more money in order to make this thing happen. But again, I just don't know. We'll know after the Notre Dame game. That's all I will tell you.
All right, next question here coming from Marty Bird's Proxy, who says, most of us here haven't been anywhere close to a huddle on the sidelines during the 2-minute timeout in a major college football game. But would it be standard procedure for someone, anyone, even a GA, to be in the face of anyone who might handle the ball yelling ball security in some form or another, especially given the urgency of the situation and recent events of the previous game? Maybe they did, but if so, something is not registering. Look, I've been at these games, and Sam Pittman made it extremely clear we told them to hang on to the football.
You even said that there were people down there that saw Braylon Russell standing there going, ball security, ball security, ball security.
Which could love Mike Washington. He's had a great year. It's a bummer he put the ball on the deck. Maybe Braylon Russell should have been in that game if you're not really trying to score.
People are saying that now. You've also got people saying that in order to get that first down, which they did need, by the way, they needed that first down, that he extended his one hand forward, and so he only had one hand on the ball instead of like this. So, again, I was talking to somebody that day that had read an article that written, I think it was Hutch, Andrew Hutchinson, but he'd done research on, and Arkansas is the #1 team in the country over the last few years at fumbles. They fumbled more than anybody.
Wow.
And that's something that's Sam Pittman's fault. And you know how they go through these dopey drills where you got a running back and he's got people and they take these things and hit them.
The pads, the
Those
dummies,
things
whatever,
don't do anything. You got to have a real drill where they're mad and you're telling those defensive guys, I want you to strip that ball.
Can't hit kids anymore.
And I mean, they're just knocking people and grabbing and pulling. That's how you would improve your ball security, not with some drill where you're hitting a guy with a foam stick or something. I've never believed in that.
All right, next question here comes from Pat Bode, who asks, have you ever seen a coach like Sam Pittman, who doesn't really show much fire on the sideline, actually win big? or does that usually hold teams back? Look, it's way before my time. Mike, as I look down here, seeing some of your notes, Bear Bryant was not a fiery guy.
No, he might have been. I've had people tell me that in the locker room and in practice, he'd take your head off. But no, he wasn't running up and down he wasn't Nick Saban. Nick Saban screams all the time. He's mad at officials and mad at his own players. And he's successful. Okay, that works for him. Let's take Lane Kiffin. I mean, Lane Kiffin's fairly laid back. I think he can get mad every once in a while.
A little red on the officials, that's about it.
But he's not just somebody that runs around going nuts all the time. I don't think that's necessarily makes you a good coach. Eddie Sutton's told a bunch of us at a press conference one time years ago, he said, every coach has to have his own style. If you try to force somebody to coach the way they don't, it's against their personality, it'll blow up in their face. I don't think you can make Sam Pittman be anything other than what he is, and I think he's smart enough not to do that. So is that part of the problem? Yes, I do think it's an issue. I think when you watch him over on the sidelines, he's too passive. And I think the players would love to look over there and see him get more involved, but I don't think it's just not what he does.
It seems like, just given his background as an offensive line coach, we're not really in the weeds, so I'm kind of speculating, but hey, it's just what I see. It seems like he really lets Bobby Petrino head coach offense, Travis Williams head coach defense. Maybe I'm going to make a third down call, a fourth down call, whatever. Is that the wrong approach, or is that kind of what he's married to right now?
I think he needs to be more dynamic, and part of the reason why fans think that he doesn't know what he's doing out there is because he doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. He just kind of looks like he's just looking at things, you know. And when you don't see somebody reacting, you tend to assume they don't know what's going on. That may not be the case, but I do think that approach has hurt him with the fans, and I think it does with some of his players on the field.
All right, next question here coming from Pig's Feet, who says, at least basketball season almost here. I understand that Arkansas can actually compete for a natty in this sport. Hey, those are fighting words coming from the AD, right?
Well, the AD, you know, he certainly complimented his basketball team. But did he do the right thing there? I don't know Cal well enough to know if he fully understands what's about to happen, but I'll explain it. As soon as they play that first game against that exhibition game against Memphis, from that point on until at least baseball season, the entire weight of this athletic program and the fans and everybody is going to be on basketball. Everybody's going to jump on them. Hey, football stinks, but these are Razorbacks. This is our pride team. And so that's going to be a tough thing to handle, I think. I think that's a lot of pressure.
Maybe a lot of that.
But a
lot of that energy would be devoted towards the coaching search.
It was that way at Kentucky. I mean, they weren't a football school, so maybe he understands that.
Isn't it weird that kind of Yurichek's comments, it did make people mad, but it was the truth. Unbelievably, he was kind of vindicated by this past weekend.
People have said it didn't have anything to do with the game, and it might not have. I just don't think you say that. I've never heard an AD say it.
I agree. Whether it's true or not, you don't. You know what's mom and dad say?
He came across like he was making excuses.
Of course he was. You don't have anything nice to say. Don't say anything at all. And it's an AD's job to say nice things. All right. Final question here of the week. Oklahog says, revisit the $140 million North End Zone expansion and share the impact it is still having on our bottom line. Was this Jeff Long's brainchild, and the hope was a big donor would pay for a big chunk of it in exchange for a name on the side of the facility? Look, I wasn't really here for it. Mike, I think you'll agree with me. I think that North End Zone ultimately got Jeff Long fired.
It was an issue, but as I recall, he did initially try to maybe get somebody to name it and pay for it, and when he couldn't, that's when he had to go to the Board of Trustees and get approval for a bond issue to pay for it. Now, the bond issue is a 20-year deal, so it's not going to be paid off until 2038. They're going to be paying on that till 2038. Now, that doesn't mean they're losing money on that. I contacted somebody over at the Broyles Center, and I haven't heard back from them. What I was interested in is how much. I think they're making a profit off that. In other words, what they're able to charge, and I don't know how many of you have ever been on those luxury areas. It's not box seats.
Club level. There's a couple suites, all that stuff.
There's clubs up there, and those fans that are in there love that. You know why they love it? Because the wives don't like sitting in those skyboxes because they're cramped. Well, down there you can move around. You got all kinds of food. You got stuff to do. You don't have to go outside and watch the game. They got big screen TVs everywhere. And a lot of the guys, it's cooler in there when it's hot. It's warmer out there when it's cold. And you just get in there and it's like a big social thing. So it's so popular, and it was such a good idea, and I give Jeff Long credit for that, that I think they've made a profit. Whatever they have to pay for that bond issue, they get more money from the sales of people to being in those club areas. But you're saddled with that for until 2038.
Well, look, you go to the games, basketball, football. There's a Walmart logo on the field. There's a Tyson logo on the field. Why not the JB Hunt end zone or the Arvest Bank, Sam's Club end zone, whatever?
I do think you could do that still today. You could get somebody to put their name on it, and they haven't been able to do that. And I was hearing they even entertained the idea of getting about 10 different boosters and having each of their names be associated with the stadium.
Like a Ring of Honor kind
But
of
it would be a Ring of Honor thing, and so your name would be up there as one of many names instead of one big name like Reynolds Razorback Stadium. But hasn't happened so far. You're not going to get that kind of money unless I think you get a new AD.
All right, Mike, we're here to tell the truth, right? In fairness, though, it's a little negative, right? So let's end on a high note here. Notre Dame this week really is. It's one of the biggest home games, certainly non-conference home games that they've played in a long, long time. You know, maybe the Texas game in 2021. Maybe you're even going back to USC that long ago. Some shine is lost. Notre Dame, a tough 0-2 start, but still, it's the Golden Domers. It's Here Come the Irish. It's that brand. Lou Holt's apparently going to be back in town, that whole thing. How do you see it playing out this weekend?
Well, the thing that scares me is what they did to Purdue with their running game. They just took it and ran on them and
Jeremiah Love, probably the best running back in the
150
country.
yards, and they had another back that had 80 yards. I think they had right at 300 yards rushing. Okay, does that not scare people with this defense and the way they deal with the run? A team that can run for 300 yards on you, and it's Notre Dame. So that's the part that scares you. Here's the good part. They don't have a good pass defense.
Miami, Texas A&M both put up some yards, yeah.
So if Bobby Petrino can get Taylor Green going again, if you can get your offensive line blocking, maybe this is the best case scenario. You get in one of those, you score, we score, you score, we score, and maybe this time at the end, Notre Dame fumbles, instead of Arkansas. That's your best case scenario.
They're 2-2, back-to-back games. They've had 500 yards of offense. The fewest points they've scored this year is 31. And they're still 2-2. All that said, what happens if Arkansas wins this weekend? Do we pump the brakes on the Sam Pittman crowd?
I think it gets pumped. The brakes get pumped.
And he's at least good through the end of the year.
I don't know
how
about
far do we
that.
call off the dogs here?
I don't know about that.
Marcus Freeman's gonna have the people after him at 1-3.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you don't make a change with the assistant coaches either. I mean, if you win that game, but I can see this being a week-to-week thing. I can.
Yeah. A lot of good equity can be built up if they find a way to get it done, and hopefully they do. Arkansas, Notre Dame going down on Saturday. For Mike Irwin, I'm Trey Dare. That's this week's Ask Mike.